Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Here.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Here.
And Mr. Duray? Secretary's aye. Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, for our good news report, we have Monee Elementary, and we have our Monee principal, Joanne Jones, as well as our assistant principal, Moss, here with us this evening, Vaughn. And I believe we're talking about your social media campaign. So would you like to come forward? Do we need to take seats in the audience? Is there a presentation?
Slideshow. Would you like us to sit out in the audience? Is it easier to, are you going to put it up here? Yeah. Oh, well, then we want to be down there. All right. Oh, we thought that was to keep.
Okay, is this?
Testing.
Testing, testing, testing.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight to talk about Monee Elementary's social media campaign. Obviously, this is something that is very important to our Board of Education, our central office administration, and to all of us, including our parents and students. So this year, we basically started right away. We started out running as school started, and we're going to kind of take you through our plan. The first thing we're going to talk about is our awareness campaign and what our slogan is. Keeping our community informed and aware about being safe, responsible, and respectful on social media. For our school-wide implementation, Monee Elementary, again, along with the entire Crete Monee District 201U, understands the importance of educating our students and parents about social media as a whole beyond cyberbullying. This year, our campaign takes place for the entire school year. In order to make our school and community involved about social media awareness, we have provided a brief overview of our campaign and our calendar highlighting our plan of action. And this is something that can also be found on our website. Some topics throughout the year include safety, posting pictures, etiquette, permission before you post a picture of someone, dangers of gossiping and spreading rumors, and responsible behavior, separating fact from fiction, the do's and don'ts, being safe, respectful, and responsible, which is something we always come back to, tied to our PBIS program.
In addition to that, we have our school-wide implementation. Basically, for the month of September, our theme was being trustworthy on social media, and this was implemented for the entire school. It took place from September 18th through October the 2nd, And basically some of the things that the teachers did, they simply used the website that was given, I believe, by a district that pertains to the Chrome use and rules for our Chromebooks. In addition to that, the teachers also talked about the digital citizenship. As you look at the bottom, that's one of the actual projects that one of the teachers, one of the classrooms did, just simply going over the rules and regulations or rules that teachers have to make sure that the students use the Chromebooks properly. For the month of October, the theme was being respectful on social media. And that was basically our fifth grade. Our fifth grade as a whole participated for that particular topic. In addition to that, our fifth grade students also planned with their teachers, and they also conducted announcements that were specific to the topic for October. And this is just right here. This is our campaign, social media campaign wall that we have. And as you can see, those are some of the projects that the students did in their classrooms for the months of September and October. As we go to November, our theme was being responsible on social media, and this was taken, the Monee Ambassadors, our club, they went ahead and implemented this particular month. And as you see, there's a picture at the bottom. I know you probably can't see it, but those are all our Monee Ambassador members, and they actually created projects that were specific around that topic. In addition to that, they also did announcements. So what we try to do is every single month we have our students involved by doing announcements and projects that are specific to these themes. In addition to that, since we had the holiday season, we also kind of put a little spin to it. We talked about safety. Well, the Safety Patrol Club and the mentoring also, they conducted an announcement. We kind of put a little spin to it because during the holiday seasons, we know that sometimes we have people that, well, not necessarily like to take things, but we were just having the students be more aware of their surroundings during the holiday season. Then the next one is just one of the projects that the Monee Ambassadors did, the do's and don'ts of social media.
Okay, this is our Monee social media pledge. Actually, one of the teachers found this for us off of a superteacherworksheet.com site. And what we did then is each teacher, classroom teachers as well as our specialists, each got a copy of the Internet Safety Pledge. They had a sheet of paper, and all of the students that they work with signed the paper and took the pledge. And this is something that is posted, and I believe you saw it earlier on in one of those pictures. It was on the second page of the packet. And the next one also came from the same website. This is being safe on the internet. So each student, basically, if they were, what'd you say, 4 or 5 pages, little booklets, and each student filled in their own booklet on different ways that they can be safe on the internet. Currently, for the month of January, we're working on showing fairness on social media. Our Character Club are the leaders for this month. They will be doing announcements, as Dr. Vaughn mentioned, periodically throughout the month. And this is something we do every single day. We have our students involved in our announcements. It's something that they really enjoy doing. They not only do our pledge with us, but we also have classes that are assigned to do different things. For example, we have San Pinheiro Silliness, which is just something where it's a poem that the kids read. Another teacher keeps us up on local sports. So just Swidrick Smiles, absolutely. So any way we can to get the kids involved. So when it's their turn for the month, they really take this very seriously and they're very happy about it.
Okay, so we're going to go over the remaining agenda for the new year. For the month of February is caring for others on social media, and actually this is an entire school implementation. All students will have the option to do a project either from the character educational standpoint or the character trait standpoint or from the social media standpoint. Each grade will conduct announcements. They will conduct announcements, and also the kindergartners will accompany the first grade students. And we just have a list of the activities to the right and also the dates that each particular grade level is responsible for per the announcements. For the month of April, we have showing citizenship on social media for March and April. And once again, all students do have the option to do one of the two projects of their choice on social media. This takes place for 2 months. And once again, there's a schedule up on the actual screen that shows the actual dates that each grade level will partake in the announcements. Currently, the Student Council and Recycling Club are planning for the month of April, which will be focusing on citizenship as well. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot May. Having fun on social media. I guess this is the part where all of us are ready to go home. It's the entire school. And of course, this is to be announced because we're going to have like a school-wide event at the end of the school year. We're still planning for that. And I guess we probably will have a couple of the topics and probably have like a fun day or whatnot, but that's still in the implementation stage.
And as far as our kindergartners, we do have a different grade level lead the pledge every month. Well, you know, our kindergartners are learning. Some of them are much more forward than others. Some of them are more comfortable than others, but we do have them actually lead the pledge in May. So we just felt that because February was kind of around the corner and not all of them are that comfortable yet, we didn't want to exclude them, so we're having them come with the first graders to do those announcements. This particular page talks about communicating to parents. And we do ask our teachers to place the social media topics in their weekly newsletters. They will also ask their parents to share their feelings and beliefs at home with their child. Our school's monthly newsletters do provide brief information specific to our social media campaign every month. And the social media topics currently reflect our monthly character traits. In order to keep the community informed, we are also providing this information to parents by placing it on our school website. Parents will have the option of helping their child on the character trait projects, focusing on caring and citizenship from a social media perspective. And this will take place from February 1st to the end of April, and that would be 2 projects. And throughout the year, many of our school clubs will create and display projects at the school's main entrance for parents to view throughout the year. And if you come there right now, you'll see that there are lots of things up and able to be seen by everybody.
And I believe this is our last page. As you can see, for 2014, 2015, we did have a couple of incidences or minor incidences as it reflects the cyberbullying and social media concerns. 1 bus incident, 3 cell phone issues, but I don't want to say knock on wood, but as of at this point in the year, we have no social media incidents at this point, which is a great thing because we're pushing this, we keep continually pushing the announcements and making students and parents aware. I believe that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Thank you, Mrs. Jones and Mr. Vaughn, for that wonderful presentation. I'm sorry, it is Dr. Vaughn now. Dr. Vaughn, newly attained doctorate. Any board members have any comments?
I do.
Is that better? Go ahead.
I have one question. We gave topics for the month. Are we doing something daily within that month? Is there like daily they do things focused on that monthly goal? I don't care, whatever.
Well, more so it's weekly.
Okay.
A lot of times what we do is we have during our, what time is that called? During our library time, that's where the students actually create some of their projects. And sometimes they do it in class. So, but it's not necessarily daily. I believe on one of the actual calendars, we do announcements like 3 times out of the week. So it's not daily though.
Okay.
But this program is tied to our Character Club program that we have been doing at Monee Elementary for several years. So there's always something going on. So it might not be 5 days of social media, but we are also concentrating on whatever character that we're currently working on for that month. So when Dr.
Like a
Vaughn is,
character trait, you mean?
yes.
Okay.
What Dr. Vaughn is talking about when he says in the library, especially for our younger students, when we implemented this program, we also have spirit necklaces at Monee Elementary where students can earn their charms. Well, we noticed that, unfortunately, today's parents are very busy. So a lot of our kids were not able to participate and earn those charms for their necklaces. So what we did is we asked the library assistant if she would please help us with that. So she does that once a month with the students, and she helps them complete their activity or their goal so that they can earn their charm for the month. Now, the older students, even though they still do something during their library time, they are responsible for at least one activity on their own. So that's something, again, that's ongoing all the time.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't just once a month, this was it, because I think this is a great idea. I applaud you for plotting this out every month. I just want to make sure that we're consistently reinforcing it because, in one ear, out one ear doesn't work. So that's what I was making sure because I think we're on point here. We just need to stay at it. I love seeing those zeros. Love seeing those zeros for this year. Love it.
Additionally, when the students are in the library, at times, I believe our library assistant does provide literature, books, read alouds or whatnot that may be specific to some of the character traits or themes that we have for the social media campaign. And as Mrs. Jones was stating, it does correlate to our character traits as well. So we're consistently infusing it. If it's not necessary during those announcements, it's also embedded in what we talk about, character traits, being caring, being respectful. So
Right, because you guys actually have the impressionable ages there and the time you're catching them is the right time. So they're learning from steps up and that's what I'm hoping for.
It is. And actually, one of the things we do every morning I believe the entire district, is we do that moment of reflection. And what we try and do, that isn't done by a student, that's either done by Dr. Vaughn or myself, whoever does announcements. And those two are tied to whatever it is that we are covering that month. So that is daily.
Great, thank you for the clarification. I just wanted to make sure that I had the whole picture. I appreciate you guys doing this. I think it's a great, great plan and keep up the good work. Thank you.
So obviously, Monee is near and dear to my heart, and I happened to be there this morning for the announcements. But most importantly, my daughter, who's in 4th grade there, came home, and I know that they've been talking to them about it because she came home and she told me what I can and can't do on social media. So the message is definitely getting out there. And I noticed in the presentation that the kids had their pictures taken and that their projects are displayed. And I welcome any of you that want to see it. Monee PTO is actually having their pasta dinner again this year. So it will be in March and can come in and see all those up on the wall. So. Well, that too, if you want to volunteer. Great job. Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Jones, Dr. Mons, definitely, I concur with my colleague, Mrs. Galbraith, as with all of you guys in the district that are taking this serious. I think the key point that she mentioned about addressing this at this tender age, I asked Jennifer, I mean, this is K through 5. I don't have a child yet with a cell phone at that age, so I was kind of shocked that we might even be having issues at this age, but no time like the present to ensure that they understand from day one hurtful things to hurtful feelings for someone else. And again, once you put that information out, it's there for a lifetime, for eternity, the way they explained it to me. And just as an adult, I think kids think they can do certain things and it's erased. And years later, you know, there's no consequence. So I definitely applaud you guys. I was kind of curious, but I definitely know how to reach you at Monee. What some of the, in the little packet, the little booklet that you guys showed up there, that you said they had like 3 or 4 pages. I was just curious what they might have said were some of the things, you know, just what was enclosed and some of their thoughts. I'm going to be happy to come and check it out and just kind of get a feel for what the kids were saying. Because here's, I guess, what I was thinking. When you communicate so much with the upper grades and some of the larger kids, a lot of times, Laura can attest to this, that I say is what is happening in the elementary school level that we should try sometimes to, you know, transition into these big, so-called big people's heads and have them to understand it. So whatever dialogue these little guys are, you know, articulating to you guys, I'm not far removed from saying it to some of these teenagers that we talk to here on a regular basis. So I'm going to come and check it out and look for myself. But thank you guys. Really great job.
Don't sit down quite yet, Doctor. All right. Thank you, Principal Jones and Dr. Vaughn, again, on an excellent choice to cause our kids to learn on a topic that's been kind of all over the place, and to reel our kids in to do the right things speaks volumes of what you guys are trying to accomplish. And just kind of reminds me the whole social media network and process and what's going on out there is Albert Nobel with the Nobel Peace Prize. Little did many people probably know he invented dynamite. So social media could be a good thing, and it can be like dynamite out there. So let's continue it down the peace road. Thank you.
I think this is a great effort, and I love the fact that we are doing this district-wide, and I love the fact that our schools are taking a district initiative and making it personal to their schools and their students and their needs. And it's definitely a need, I believe. We've heard of different incidents in the news of bullying on social media with kids of this age, and, you know, things leading to incidents occurring that otherwise may not have occurred if we didn't have social media. And I think first and foremost, we have to be examples to our children of what is acceptable and not acceptable. I love the parent piece. I love how you're involving them as well, because we can do so much at school, but a lot of this occurs outside of school. So great job to you both and all of the teachers that are involved and the students for no occurrences. Alrighty. Okay, let's move forward. We now have our public comment. I believe we have one public comment. Thank you all again. Michelle Calderon. Is it Calderon or Calderoni? Okay, Calderoni. I know some Calderons, so.
There's Calderon here at the high school, and she says Calderon.
Okay, thank you. Special Olympics Unified Basketball Game with Crete PD.
Yes, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Thank you. I think I know almost everybody, but I'm Michelle Calderoni. I'm one of the coaches for our Crete Monee Special Olympics team. And I just wanted to come up and invite you to our last game of our basketball season, which is next Tuesday. And it's a unified basketball game with our team and the Crete Police Department. I have 6 or 7 officers coming out that will play a game alongside with our athletes. So it's 2 officers and 3 athletes against 2 officers and 3 athletes. And we're going to play a full game. So it's just a fun night out and a great way to end our season. So, and this coincides with the young athletes at the elementary schools do. It's part of the Project Unify that our district is actually starting to grow and boost up. So I continue to hope that this program continues to grow with it. So thank you. And I have flyers, 7 p.m. game time. I think the doors will open. It's here at the high school.
Okay.
This final game will be here at the high school. I do. I have those for you right here. Thank you. I appreciate that. That would be a great help to me. I did try and put a couple up, but I have not been able to get all over. So thank you. That would be a great help. I do appreciate that. And I think the library has it up on their marquee. I was told today that they also put it up on the marquee. It would be nice too if we could possibly get it up here. I don't know who to ask for here at the high school outside, if that's a possibility.
The principal?
The principal contact. Okay, thank you. I didn't think about that. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other?
Did you say 7 o'clock or 7:30?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
6:30, probably the doors open, or 6:45. But the game I plan on starting at 7 o'clock. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any board updates? Okay, administrative updates. Mr. Cunningham.
Thank you. We have an update on the community workshop. We are currently working on a workshop for our parents and our stakeholders. We would like to have presentations here at the high school, including a big presentation to start us with, and then several others on the outside of it. We've been working with the administrative team and the administrative cabinet to talk about different ideas that we can do, including podcasting. We'll have a meeting about that, and we'll be setting a date approximately 6 to 8 weeks from now. And we plan to have that here and to make sure that we have as many people out as possible. That will also include, we're going to try to survey the parents and make sure that they like the ideas that we have for our presentations, to make sure we get as many out as we can. No, ma'am.
The date
We talked
has,
about February
is
18th.
no longer February 18th. That was something we discussed in the Ed Committee. That's what you said. It's no
Yes.
longer.
Yes.
Okay. And when will you all be picking a date?
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow, and we may be working on a date tomorrow. But by the time we have our next, if it's not tomorrow, by the time we have our next education committee meeting, we will have a date set and picked.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hirsch? Park data.
Park data, it's been a long time coming. I do have a presentation for you, brief one, so, and on this cold night, I'm gonna keep you moving, so I'm gonna ask you, you can go back and sit in the audience there. Well, to start tonight, I just want to refresh everyone's memory. Park data is part of our academic report, or it will become part of our academic report in the fall. But since this was the first year of the assessment, it took several months to get the data back to the district. So the data was released actually on December 11th. And the state is very clear that this is baseline data. It is not anything that has accountability attached to it at this time. So just to kind of review from our academic report, if you recall this triangle from September, we were missing the top of the triangle, which is our state assessment data. So in the academic report, we talked about our district data for those benchmark assessments that we give locally, but now I'm going to show you the state data. And if you keep in mind, state data, it's an annual occurrence, it's one test, one score. It will be attached to school and district accountability, and the coverage on a test like that is very broad, so they're covering a lot of material. The 2015 Park, first administration of it, we covered two subjects, English Language Arts, or ELA, and math. We tested students in grades 3 through 8 in both subjects. And then at high school Park are course tests. So it's not, all students do not get tested. It depends on the courses in which they're enrolled. And for us last year, we actually had a choice which courses we were going to assess. And we selected Algebra 1 and English 1, which were primarily our 9th grade students. Last year, we had 2 testing sessions that were combined to create one score. And we did what they call the PBA, or performance-based assessment. We did that in March. And then we came back in May and did what they called the end of the year assessment. And then they put those together to give us our baseline data on this new assessment. And as I said before, it's a starting point. We've had the standards for about the last 4 years, where we've been working to revise curriculum around new standards. But once the assessment comes, the assessment is really what starts to define the standards and give us a better idea of what we need to do with our curriculum and instruction. So it is truly a starting point. The Park, unlike our past tests, ISAT and PSAE, Park now has 5 performance levels. Our previous assessments only had 4. So you can see here we have level 1, which is does not meet, level 2, partially met, level 3, which is approaching expectations, which was something we didn't have before, which I actually like. It's actually telling us that we have students that are on the way to meeting standards. They're just not quite there yet. And then we have level 4, which is met expectations, level 5 exceeded expectations. And the combination of level 4 and 5 is what's reported to us. The Park took all of the data once we gave the assessment last spring, and they had to create all of these performance levels and the cut scores for each of those levels. And they also came up with a point value for the test, which was 850 points. So that was a maximum for English Language Arts, and was also a maximum for math. These are how our grade levels did last spring. You can see here we've got our 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way through 8th, and then down at the bottom we have our 9th graders for English 1. This is English Language Arts. And you can see here that we have all students that took the test and the percentage of students that were in categories 4 and 5 compared to the state average, and then I put a column in there for the difference. The thing I want you to notice here in the bottom line, where I talk about English 1 being our 9th graders, because school districts had a choice what they were going to test at the high school level, our high school scores are compared to all high school scores. Some districts may have tested their sophomores, some may have tested their juniors. So it's not clean 9th grade across the board, which is why it says high school next to the state percentage. So that is not necessarily comparing one grade level to the same grade level across high school grades. We have some places where we're very close to the state average, and we have some where, we've got some double-digit gains to make there. And then for math, you will see math percentages are lower than the English language arts percentages, which is typical of our state testing. But again, you can see our all students percent compared to the state, and then that difference. And then we looked at the data by school. We always like to give our schools their information. Based on the suggestion of the Ed Committee last fall, we did a little color coding here. You can see that for English language arts, the district average across the board was 29%. So we had 29% of our students that met or exceeded expectations. The state average for that was 33%. And you can see where our schools lined up. If it's highlighted in green, it meant that it exceeded the district average. If it's highlighted in yellow, it exceeded both or met both it exceeded the district average, but exceeded or met the state average. I think the middle school is at 33%, which is the state average. So for English language arts, we had 3 schools that exceeded the state average and 1 that was above the district average and just a percentage point behind the state. And then in math, again, the same setup. The district average was 17%. The state average was 28%. We had 4 schools that were at or above the district average, and we had 1 school that exceeded both the district and the state average in math. What I wanted to do with this is, you know, when you're comparing the state averages, it's nice, it gives you, you know, how we're doing compared across the state, but I thought it would be good to give some context to it. And at our community forum before the holidays, we also put this information out. So what I did was I went into the Illinois report card site, which, you know, has information about schools and districts across the state. And there's actually a comparing feature where you can click and compare schools and districts against 3 others, and you can get all of this information. It's all public information. So what I did here for the elementary districts, I went and I looked at districts where we tend to get students transferred to us. So kind of our neighborhood districts where students may transfer in and out, and we kind of looked at a comparison. You can see here the trend, the state is at 33%, and the districts that I did the comparison with, everyone there on their composite, which is their English language arts plus their math, they're all behind the state average. We're the blue bar at 23%. The 2 districts that are slightly higher than us are 2 districts, Matson School District 159 and District 162. And then as you move down, we've got our neighboring districts in Stager, Chicago Heights, Country Club Hills, Park Forest, Chicago Heights, and Sauk Village, I believe, is there. So you can kind of see, this kind of gives you a little bit of context about how the districts around us are doing. Also did the same thing for high school. And in this one, I put some districts here that we are compared to in terms of unit districts, but I was also able to separate out high school where I couldn't do that for elementary. But you can see our neighboring districts. The one that's at 27%, if you can, I don't know if you can see it, but that's Lincoln Way. And then we have Peatone and Beecher behind, and then followed down the line there. We're at 14%. And again, all of these districts in terms of a context are all below the state average for the composite score. What I did with the high school, I was able to break it out a little bit more. So if you look at this just for English language arts, the district scores, again, we're the blue bar, we're right in the middle. Lincoln Way is a percentage point behind below the state average, and then you can see the rest of the districts that are lining up. And again, the trend here for generally the south suburban area is that we score below the state. The next one is really interesting because it's math, and it is significantly different than the English language arts one. You can see the same school districts lining up, and you can see that all of these districts are performing, at least on the initial administration of Park, are performing well below the state average. So next steps for us. Well, we did this, we reviewed our results with staff on our Institute Day in January, a couple weeks ago. We trained our teachers then on how to read those individual student reports, and if you're a parent in the audience, you should have received that last week. And we sent those out. And now the next step is our schools are going to offer an informational session to parents. So if you have questions about those individual student reports, or you want to learn about more about your school's data, they will be having those sessions next month. And then we're right now going to start gearing up for our spring implementation of PARC for 2016. Once we have 2016 tests administered and we have data, now we'll be able to compare growth from one year to the next. So that's why when I say there's no accountability, it won't happen until this next set of data comes in that we can compare one year with the next. I'm jumping right ahead of me. So what does PARC 2016 look like? Well, you'll notice now before we were 2 tests, 1 score. This year it will be 1 test, 1 score. They've reduced the testing sessions. So grades 3 to 5, last year they had 8 testing sessions. This year they'll have 7, a slight decrease. Grades 6 to 9 is where you're really going to see a difference. They had 9 sessions last year. They're going to drop down to 6. And what we had to do was set up a 30-day testing window. And they actually allowed us to do that by school. So our testing windows for the high school and Monee Education Center will be from March 7th to April 21st. We did this a little earlier because we have spring testing for ACT in April, and we had to work around the other tests that are scheduled. And then our K-8 schools will test between April 4th and May 13th. So it will actually be more of a true end of year type of assessment. We didn't have the same constraints with them because there is no other standardized tests that they're taking during the spring. So we were able to push that back toward the far end of the window. And then on this slide, there are some great resources for parents and teachers. Obviously, the Illinois Report Card site is a wealth of information, and that was where I got all of my data from. But the one that I wanted to highlight is the second one. This is the one that you can go on and see this Understand the Score. It will have a guidebook for you. There's videos you can watch. I mean, it's just got a lot of information there to help parents understand PARC and understand the score report. Learning Heroes. And that is on our website. Thank you, Natalie. And, Learning Heroes, Great Kids, another couple of sites that will help parents. And then, as always, we have the PARC website and the Illinois State Board of Education website. So those are some resources there. There's a wealth of information out there. It's just you have to go and get it and read it, and it's almost overwhelming. There's so much. Yes, yes. They would have access there, access at the library. You can get it on your phone. And at this time, any questions? Not all. Well, we can get them up there, though. That's not a problem. Yeah. We can get that up tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Well, I think the thing to understand about Park is a different kind of test. So, our previous tests were multiple choice. They were asking students to do one-step mathematical computation, multiple choice type questions, more at the knowledge level, if you will, types of questions. Park is different. Park is asking students to apply what they read, to find text evidence, to do writing. I mean, students have to produce a written piece. They're asking them to take math and apply it to real life situations. They're asking questions differently. So which one is not the right answer, or there may be multiple correct answers. So the test itself is different than the test before. It's a much more difficult test. And then you layer on top of that we gave it to students online, which all of the data from the state is showing that the online performance versus the performance of school districts that chose to do the initial administration paper pencil, the online scores are lower than the paper pencil scores because it's a new thing. So it's not something that students are used to. So if you go back and you look at predictions about what scores would be like, the state, even nationally, they were predicting that scores were not going to be anywhere near what they had been. And there are two testing consortiums in the country. There's Park, which is the one that we take, and then there's another testing group called Smarter Balance that other states have taken their test. Smarter Balance put out all the cut scores and everything before the students actually took the test. And when they did that, they said, only about a third of our students are going to pass this test. Park did it the opposite. They gave the test, then they looked at the scores, then they created the cut scores. And what kind of results did we have here? About a third across our state, about a third of the students actually met standards on the test. So the new test that's out here now is it's not looking at things the same way. It's a new test. It's built and designed to get our students better prepared for where they need to go in the future, as opposed to the other tests. So much more rigorous test. And right now, I think we all expected the scores not to be high. But the challenge is, what do we do? Which is your point. What do we do from this point forward to move those scores along? And really, it's about making sure that we understand the depth of the standards, because the standards are multi-layered. They're requiring students to think at a higher level, and we have to make sure that what they're requiring is how we're teaching. So are we embedding this into our curriculum? Are we providing learning opportunities for students that are going to get them to this higher level thinking? And that's the challenge before us. So all of these districts now that they have the scores, they've seen the tests, they understand the vocabulary, they're getting a better understanding of what the standards are. All of us now are going to have to go back to our curriculum and our instructional practices and make sure now that we are moving students toward that higher level. And that's what we had to do when came out. We went through a similar process. It was a new test with vocabulary, something that different, and we had that test for the last 15 years, and it took schools a while to catch up to the test, and we're in the same situation now that we were in 15 years ago when we had that round of testing. So it's really about how we move forward. Mm-hmm. 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 Mhm. Right. Mhm. Right. Mhm. Well, and I think this is a real interesting slide too, because if you look at the all student percentage there, our third grade students in math, they were in kindergarten when when the standards were adopted. So they're the group that has probably gotten the most Common Core curriculum of anybody. At all these other grade levels, we've been gap filling. We've had to go in and figure out, they haven't had what what our third graders have had. So, it's going to take time for that to filter through the system. And I know we have teachers in the audience that are having that experience in the classroom where they're teaching something, but the students they're missing something that never had before because of the shift. So, Mr. Don't panic, Mr. Trey. Well, the thing, and some of it's tied up with the state. I want to it's a great question. I want to go back to the high school percentage for just a minute because you reminded me of something. Our ninth graders who take algebra, okay, we have eighth graders that take algebra. And the eighth graders that take algebra are the students who are in an honors class, and then as freshmen are in honors geometry. Those students did not take the algebra test. They were in eighth grade. So our ninth grade Algebra 1 score does not include that group of students. They're in the eighth grade group. To get to your question, the PARC test is set up by courses. So even if we were to test 10th graders, those 10th graders would be taking a course test. So the next class would be geometry. So if they were to take a test this year, it would be a geometry test. It wouldn't be an algebra test. So it would be a different subject within math. But again, the state's initial plan was that we would be testing 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. So we would test Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and then students would be done. But the state hasn't funded that, so we're still having to select a grade level at high school to test. And we selected 9th grade because those students took it in 8th grade. No. Not on this. We'll know on our Explore Plan and ACT test where we measure growth, which is one of our local assessments. Well, first of all, I don't know what the highest achieving school is yet. Remember, this data came out about a month ago. Haven't, there are schools in the state that did well. I would imagine that the schools that did well were probably in the 60s, as opposed to schools before that were achieving in the 90s. So again, everybody experienced a drop. As far as contacting them, like I said, we just got the data. So that's probably in process through curriculum networks to figure out what schools are doing. Some of it, like we had with our previous test, some of it has to do with certain demographics. It has to do with curriculum. It has to do with instruction. I mean, it's a very complex thing. Certainly, that's something that we'll pursue. But because the data just came out, we haven't even, as a district, had an opportunity at the building level to sit down and really dig into this because it came out so late. Mhm. 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 Right. Mhm. Correct. Well, and I understand that, but all I want to reinforce here, and you can look at on the state website too, is they're very clear. This is the beginning, and the scores are a baseline, and now we need to move forward and make some changes in what we do to get students to achieve, which is every school district's intention. Mhm. Sure. Okay. Mhm. Using it. Mhm. Right. Agree. Mhm. Oh, absolutely. And I think maybe to go back to Mr. Trey's question or his comment, one of the things that would help us is we to do the curriculum and assessment work that we need to do requires time. And we are having a lot of conversations about how do we get our teachers and our teams the time to do the work, because if you have a 30-minute planning period during a school day is not going to give you enough time to get to the depth of work that needs to be done to address the needs of what this test is saying we need to do. So we are working to address that issue too, because we have to get the time to do this deep level work. And our early out Tuesday at the high school was our first kind of our first attempt at getting some more time for the high school. So we realize that that's a need that we have. Didn't have. No comment. No. Mhm. Right. I think another. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Right. We're in geometry. When I talk about Park and how it's requiring higher level thinking, the Common Core standards actually that's the thing about the standards is that it wants students to get to this high level of thinking, and the standards are really written to support inquiry, which I think you and I had this conversation on the phone a while back. When you look at these scores, we have a school that's our IB school, Coretta Scott King, is an inquiry based program, and when you look at our scores for CSK, they are the highest scores that we have in the district. They're at 44% for English language arts, which is 11% above the state. And when they're 2% above the state in math. And when you look at, and especially, I'm going to go back to this one because the inquiry program at CSK revolves around literacy, science, and social studies. So they're hitting those probably at a much higher rate than they are math. But if the inquiry program is getting us above the state average, then our expansion, as we've talked about, the expansion at the middle school is something that's going to also help us do better on this assessment.
It's not just we have
the education committee meetings, we do have these conversations and we talk in depth about our test results and other things academically going on in our district. I want to just say that there's multiple factors that go into whether a child does well on a standardized test. A test that's supposed to be standardized means that it's supposed to be normed on the average student. And I won't even go into my opinions on this test or any standardized test. But we have to take into consideration that there's multiple factors. Other districts have more money per student to spend on the technology and other curriculum and programs that they can bring into their schools. You have outside factors that we can't control. What we can control is the quality of education that we give our students and the quality of teaching that we give our students. And I challenge the administration as well as the school board to make those decisions where we know that we are giving our kids the best educational opportunities as well as putting the best teachers in front of our children. I wanted to just touch on the base of we have to get out of the mindset of this test that our state has chosen is not reflective of the success of our students. We have a mindset in our country that one test tells the whole story, and that's not the case. And even with the Every Student Succeeds Act, there is an initiative to move away from that and to look into more of a smarter balance, I think is what they're calling it, way of looking at balanced testing instead of just looking at one test to define success for our students. And so we have to work on that on a local front, that this is just one test. We give multiple assessments to our students, and we have to look at the collective picture. So, just wanted to push that. And the ESSA, you can go on ed.gov and learn more about that, because what that did as far as reauthorizing the Elementary and Secondary Act, it's also pushing our country away from a lot of the things that unfortunately came out of No Child Left Behind and the mindsets of this accountability that was kind of more harsh in nature than helpful in nature. So I encourage everybody to go and look at that.
And just maybe a quick comment to follow up with that. The Illinois has adopted a multiple measures accountability system. So when it actually becomes implemented down the road here, when we have a couple of years of data, they'll be, just to kind of go along with what you said, they'll be looking at lots of different pieces to this in addition to our local assessments for them to determine how we're doing as a district. So it's not going to be this one score, you didn't make AYP and now you're being sanctioned for, or you're a failing school. So that we have a different accountability measure that's coming. Any other? Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, Student Affairs, Mrs. Spence, for your update.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
The following Freedom of Information requests have been received. The first one comes to us from Tammy Burnham. All of the applicant names and supporting documentation for who have applied for the Crete Monee 201U Board of Education Subdistrict 7 member seat to replace resigned member Edward Anderson. An electronic response was sent on December 28th, and the response included the requested names. The next one comes to us from Tammy Burnham. The request is for a copy of the Subdistrict 7 School Board candidates questionnaires submitted. An electronic response was sent on January 7th. The response included the requested documents. The next one comes to us from Trey Cobb from One Chance, Illinois. The request was for requesting information on the district's gifted and talented programs, honors programs, or any other tracks for exceptional students. An electronic response was sent on January 4th. Our next one comes to us from Karen Hav of Crete Monee Record Monitor. The request was for documentation to show what college or university awarded the degree and the date for the Master of Arts degree for Dr. Nakia Hall, as indicated in her biography on the district website. Also for board member Maurice Brown, documentation to show what college or university awarded the degrees and the dates for the 3 academic degrees as indicated in his biography on the district website. An electronic response was sent on January 4th. Our last request is from Felix Sarver from the Herald New News. The request is for a copy of any and all superintendent employment contracts from 2008 to 2015 at Crete Monee School District 201U. An electronic response was sent on January 14th. The response included the requested documents. This concludes the FOIA request for the month of January. Please remember to visit our website at www.cm201u.org to view FOIA requests and answers.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as the following?
Consent agenda approval. A, Superintendent. 1, education meeting minutes for November 6, 2015. 2, special meeting community forum minutes for December 14, 2015. 3, regular meeting minutes of December 15, 2015. 4, regular meeting minutes, closed session minutes of December 15, 2015. Special meeting minutes of December 30th, 2015. 6, special meeting closed session minutes of December 30th, 2015. 7, education committee minutes of January 6, 2016. 8, personnel committee meeting minutes of January 12, 2016. 9, personnel committee closed session meeting minutes of January 12, 2016. 10, board policy committee meeting minutes of January 13, 2016. 11, approve board policies, Press Plus, Issue 90, and 5-year review of Board Policy 790, second reading, fast track. 12, review closed session minutes of July 13th through June 14th. B, business, approve accounts payable agenda of bills for December 2015. 2, approve payroll of December 2015. 3, approve treasurer's report. 4, health benefits treasurer's report, July 15th to December 15th. 5, dental benefits treasurer's report, July 15 to December 15. And 6, quarterly interest report. C, donations, 1 acknowledgement of thanks and donation. And 9, action reports, curriculum. Oh, I'm sorry, too far. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I'm sorry, did we get a motion? Motion to approve consent agenda as read.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brown.
I'll second it.
Okay, second. Second by Mrs. Gasparo. Any questions? I do have a question, or rather a comment on item number A11, approved board policies, press issue 90. I did reach out to Mrs. Tobin in regards to the minutes from the policy meeting. It stated 19 policies were reviewed, so I'm requesting that we also list what those policies were in the future, so board members know.
The policies that are reviewed, are they not listed on the website that they're listed for review?
They're not in the minutes.
So you're just saying you want them in the minutes, but they are available for inspection on the website, am I correct?
Yeah, because I'm looking at the minutes from the meeting and it says 19 policies, but it doesn't list what the policies are. I don't know. I'm just saying, if you're making minutes for a board member that's not at the meeting, please list the policies.
And can I ask a question here? I'm sorry. I had to run to the necessary room. Bio break, yes. The older you get, the more you do. On the agenda, item number 12, review closed session minutes of July 13th to June 14.
That's supposed to be June or July? Oh, July 2013 to the 2014.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And my question is, I understand that most of the closed session minutes have personnel issues or student issues, et cetera, and the need for confidentiality or privacy, but there are some closed sessions that don't have anything pertaining to any particular person. Is there any reason why we cannot go through these and release that information to the public as long as there's no personnel information in it, or release the minutes in its entirety, redacting any references to personnel names or student names, et cetera. Why can't we do that?
Well, why do we, if that's the case, why are we going into closed session? We can just stay out of closed session.
No, that's not what I said. Now, I think you
I'm asking the question.
Oh, well, we go into closed session so we don't have personnel issues discussed in public, okay? Or anybody's name. But if we release these minutes with redacting any reference to personnel, what is the problem with releasing it to the public? We're not going to divulge anybody's name or any information about a student or an employee, a teacher, a support person, administrator, et cetera. We redact that. Why don't we release it to the public? Would it redact it?
Closed session minutes are closed session minutes. So if you're going to change them to be publicly viewed, I agree with Mrs. Sanders, we may as well have our conversations in the public, which I don't have a problem with.
I think, we talk about transparency. We should be as transparent as possible and release information that doesn't pertain to a student or an individual. And the public should have a right to know what we're talking about. That's how I feel about it.
And personally, I concur, but I say one thing, then you definitely need to change the dynamics of the conversation, because whether it's relative to personnel or a student, there's still conversations that take place in there. I don't think you would necessarily want individuals hearing your state, or maybe you change and I don't mean you specifically, but individuals would change their tune. And we have had the case, as you know, you say one thing in there and people come out and do something different. So perhaps mitigating that, you have to say what you're going to say out here in front and make it stick, not change it when we walk on the other side of this door.
Well-
So I agree with you. If we're going to do that, when we make a motion to go into closed session, forget about that. If it doesn't pertain to a student or personnel, have the discussion.
Well, I don't have a
People
problem
need
with
to
that.
know
But
what
we
that
also,
means.
Kim, you got to know that the minutes to the meeting are a very brief summary of what goes on for that 2.5 hours. It's not like Kim said this, Mike said that, Maurice said this, Dr. Hall said that. That's not what the minutes are about. You know that, and I know that. So, I don't want to throw a red herring in there that it's about all the discussion that went on for 2.5 hours or 3 hours or 5 hours that some of them went on. It's a very short summary of the main topics, and that's it. So, that's all I'm trying to say,
Well, I would say if you move to that, everything that any comment I make, I want it recorded appropriately. So that means that the tape, not necessarily the summarization of Mrs. Tobin's minutes, because ultimately there's a whole story in the discussion, and the summarization will not tell that full story. So if you go to that, that's what we need to do.
No, I know that, but the tapes are subpoenable, right? Is that the right word? If somebody files a suit and asks for the tapes, right? They can get the tapes if there's a reason for it. I mean, most cases, they're never getting access to the tapes. So that's all. I just, try to be as transparent as we can be with everything.
So help me understand, if we're moving to this, what are we not discussing, or what is not in your mind transparent about especially when you say the minutes have such, it doesn't have any details specifically.
Correct.
So what kind of information, do you have an example of some information that we're not being transparent? Because it seems to me the accusations usually are us not giving information that is relative to the very thing that we can't discuss. Personnel, we're always being asked about personnel issues, which clearly is never going to change. We can't discuss it, and or student information. So outside of that, what other than our general comments are being
I'll reference, you can look at the minutes of the December 30th meeting. Take a look on the computer here and tell me that there's something in there that is not releasable to the public.
Reference your page, Mike.
Christ, I don't know. There's 500 zillion pages here.
No, that's one page.
It's wherever they are. How do I get to? Yeah, December 30th. Where's those minutes? Closed session. No. You know where they're at? This is the problem when we got 600 pages.
The life and times of a board member. You said what, babe?
Yeah, it's just. No, I'm just saying as an example, the one that we just had for.
You said
She wants to see an example. I'm just talking about the meeting we just had, December 30th of 2015, the special meeting. If you'll look at the minutes of that, there's nothing there that I see that needs to be, that is not releasable to the public. Okay. Thank you.
Was not even a part of our law. 130 what?
Let's see, where do I go? 132.
Okay, just those two, is he talking about those two sentences?
Okay, you see on page 132,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that has to be kept for 18 months and the public, what are we, how are we divulging anything to the public by those minutes is what I'm trying to say.
Excuse me, Mr. Teray, I think we deviated from the agenda item compared to that topic. It says we are to review, I understand where you're coming from, but it says we are to review the closed session minutes for July 13th to June the 14th.
Correct. But she asked me
2014.
all she did,
Right.
Mo, was ask me for an example.
And that's good. And
There's an example.
And it said, according to the law, periodically, we will decide as a board to keep the closed session minutes closed or open it up to the public. The superintendent today is recommending that we review the numerous closed session minutes, and it's his recommendation to keep these minutes closed. So we as a board can vote to release these or not.
I have a question about that same agenda item. Our policy is that we're going to review the closed session minutes semi-annually or annually.
That's by the law.
However, these minutes are from 2013 to 2014, so that's a long time ago.
Sometimes you say 18 months or so.
So when is the next time that we'll be doing this? Will it be another 18 months, or is it going to be in 3 months or 6 months?
Probably 18 months.
Okay, that's not semi-annually or annually, so then we're going to need to change our policy accordingly.
Yeah.
Me personally, not being here, I know it says that the agenda item is that we're not going to, that the recommendation is to not release them, but it's also to review them.
Sure.
And seeing as it was that long
Absolutely.
ago, I can't really review them because I wasn't here. So I just make sure that I understand what our policy is. And
Yeah, so the ownership is on us for the board to review these. The superintendent has provided his recommendation,
I understand that.
so it's up to us to look at them and either say yes or nay to his recommendation.
And you're saying, well, let me say, the backdrop of this is they used to be reviewed or not necessarily reviewed, because I had an issue when I came on the board that they were being destroyed completely. So we moved to this review process because, again, as you said, there's no, or at least I should say, when we came here, am I correct, Sherry? They were being destroyed.
Ms. Fields, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I don't mind giving them all out to the public. It's not a problem to me. You might hear
What
me
I say in the
snoring
front
in one
is
of
what
those
I
closed
say in the
session
back,
meetings.
right?
So I'm good with it. It's not a problem, but I'm
Go
going
ahead.
with the
She
superintendent
was gonna say
recommendation
something.
to
Clarification.
keep them close.
Terry?
When I first got into this position, the past practice that I had followed was that the closed session minutes were reviewed every 6 months, and it was done in January and July. And it was the past, they were at least 18 months old when they would be coming up for review. And we would do usually a block of 6 months. And through my own admission, I did not put them on the July 2015 agenda. That's why there's one whole year's worth to review now. That was one practice, and in addition to that, we also did a destruction of the recordings of the closed session minutes after, if they were 18 months or older. And then Mrs. Sanders said that she didn't agree with that practice, and I think a few other board members were, had concurred, and so we stopped that practice. But
this has been historically the way the closed session minutes have been reviewed in the past. And, you know, the board would certainly be able to determine whether they want to change that.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
I think we need to follow our policy and bring us back up to snuff on following our policy. That's the bottom line.
So help me out, let me understand. So you, Mr. Cunningham, you're recommending that we don't release any board meeting minutes, that this thing is just saying review closed session minutes, but you're also adding on a recommendation to not release any? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so if I do not agree with that, my vote is to disapprove the entire agenda, correct? Or can we pull this out?
You have a couple of things you could do according on how y'all want to do it. You could have that pulled because you didn't agree, or you could vote no on all of them, whichever was your choice.
Okay, and I can make a motion to remove that item and vote on it separately?
Well, we already have the motion on a second.
Okay,
The person who made the motion would have to rescind the motion. Otherwise, you would have to vote however you feel you need to vote.
okay. Sorry I had to go to the potty. Who made the motion?
Mr. Brown.
Okay. All right. All right, are you willing to remove that motion and we do another motion to do a separate vote on the?
Yes, I'm willing to withdraw my motion.
Okay. And I'd like to make a motion then.
So I'm willing to withdraw my motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, at this point then, can I make a motion to remove item 12 and vote on it separately?
You have that, Terry?
Second?
He's agreed to rescind his motion. I think it's just the person that made it, not the second. And so, Mr. Teray would like to remove the item number A12, review closed session minutes of July 13 through June 14, and vote on it separately.
Correct.
So you need to make that motion, Mr. Teray.
Okay, I'm going to make that motion now to remove item 812, 8A12, and vote on it separately.
I think we're going to do a voice vote on that. Yes, we have a second, please.
Second.
Second, Mr. Brown. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of item A12?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Brown,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. I asked
all that, Terry.
Trying to remember if that was all of my questions. Yes. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Galbraith,
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Aye.
and Mr. Teray,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
and Secretary's aye, Dr. Hall.
Aye, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve item number A12?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Teray,
Second.
second by Mr. Brown. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
No.
Mrs. Gasparo?
No.
And Mr. Teray?
No.
And Secretary is aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye. I'm not sure what that means for that, but it's not officially reviewed by the school board. Alrighty. I'd like to acknowledge one donation for Mrs. Kimberly Sanders from Principal Jantel Perkins. Thank you, Mrs. Sanders, for attending the recent Student Council meeting on December 4th for your discussion with the scholars regarding the importance of community leadership. So she says thank you. Okay, can I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing employee discipline, pending litigation, and student discipline?
Business.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ugh, I thought that was a part of the consent agenda. Okay, so.
That's because he read it earlier.
Oh. Okay,
No separate.
I'm sorry. So let's move back. Item number 9, action reports. Okay, we never got a motion. Okay. Item number 9, action reports, curriculum.
Tonight, I have provided for you the Title I school-wide plans for Balmoral, Crete, and Talala Elementary Schools. As a Title I district, we have 3 schools that have Title I programs, school-wide programs, and those school-wide plans are required to be approved by the Board of Education. Basically, the school-wide plan is the previously presented school improvement plan that's been placed on the ISBE Rising Star Continuous Improvement Template. It's a website that is designed to house improvement plans. We asked our Title I schools to use that website for their plans. And basically, we're asking for the board to approve those plans so that we are in compliance with the Title I requirements.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the Title I school-wide plans for the appropriate schools?
So they're the same plans that we saw in the top of the year, the school improvement plans, you're saying?
Basically, yes. There are a couple, the Rising Star template has indicators of best practice. And for Title I, there are 13 indicators. So the indicators that align with the previously submitted school improvement plan, you will see those activities in there. If there are indicators that are different from what was in the plan that might require some additional activities around parent involvement, creating mission and vision, you'll probably see some other activities there, but the academic portion of those plans is what was in the previous plans.
Did we get those?
They're in the.
So I just, help me just clarify.
Sure.
So you're saying basically no need to necessarily review, because if we saw the initial school improvement plans, we saw this same Title I less.
In a less complex format. And then these are required for an annual approval. So next year we'll come back in the fall and ask you to approve again. And Title I now has undergone some changes because of the new legislation that's been passed. So they're allowing us to do it in a much simpler format. So when you see it the next time, it won't be on this template. It'll be closer to what it looked like earlier in the year.
I'm just curious what we saw in August, September, and are we approving, I know we've done this before, but let me just bear with me. So if things did change, we would have made sure that they were encompassed in the new plan that you have now? Do I understand that?
If things had changed, but the direction to the schools was, don't create another improvement plan. Take the improvement plan that you created at the beginning of the year, put it in this template, add anything that you're doing that might address those specific indicators that are a little bit different than what was in the plan. So there might be a couple of extra things in there, but the academic portion of it around SMART goals and interventions and those types of things are all the same activities, because we don't want schools to have two separate plans. We want one plan that everybody's focused on.
Okay, so I'm gonna shoot directly there. So the program you started in January, that's an example, the intervention piece.
Oh, the after school.
So that's how do I say it? That's probably would have been placed in the school improvement, although, I mean, I saw the school improvement, I didn't see that. So it came at a later date. So when they put this template in, did they add, was that one of the components, something like that? Would that have been one of the components that would have been added?
I don't believe they added that. I believe what they added was something to address indicators around parent involvement and around having a mission and vision. I believe those were the two things that I saw that were specifically different.
Okay, so to that point, I'm slightly concerned, just help me understand, if we would have left something like that out, because that suggests that we're meeting the requirements of the Title I and obviously doing some of I don't know if they made the suggestion. No, you guys, we could make a different choice now that things had changed. I think is the way you explained it to me, as it relates to the after-school program. Because things have changed, we used to be forced, let's just say, to have some companies come in and offer the services. But because things have changed at Title I, that has changed. We are, what do you call it? We have the option.
We run our own program.
Okay, so would that not be relevant to add to the plans, or why would it be redacted or removed? What would be the?
Well, it wasn't removed. All I'm saying is if it was in their original plan, they put it in this plan.
And in your own words, it wasn't. So now, has it been?
I'm not sure if it was or it wasn't. I didn't go and compare them. I mean, I can go back and reevaluate these or look at these to see if it's in there. All I'm saying to the board is that the state requires board approval of their improvement plan. And we put the improvement plan on Rising Star, which was the current, or the up until just a short time ago, was the template for the plan. They require the board to approve it, and then all we do is say that the board approved it. In order to not duplicate plans, what my instruction to them was put your previous plan on this template so that we can get it for approval. There's no time limit on this other than it needs to be approved during the year. And if you're not comfortable with approving it tonight, I can take it back and bring it back next month. That's not a problem.
And I'm going to say just what you said, all you're asking us, but I'm be honest with you, the fact that we've talked about templates, and a template, obviously, you can stick information in. I just don't think it's that big of a deal that all the information that should be inclusive. If you're making it as simple as utilizing a template, there's not a lot of writing. Add the information. It should be a conclusive document. I mean, I understand that you're actually saying it's a working document. So if that's the case, all the information, to me, like that particular item, I don't think there's no way it shouldn't be included because it's a part of intervention and it's touching the very students that Title I addresses. So if I were to be approving it, I want to approve. We just listen to you down there. And many colleagues said, what are our interventions? We have some, so why wouldn't we document them to the state? Because at some point, one of the things that we asked last year when we had these companies coming in, we couldn't judge their level of success or the ratios because we didn't have control. So now that we have control and we have a measure of, we can dictate what's going on, we're using our staff, why wouldn't we want to make that information inclusive? So I'm just saying that to you. I feel like if we're not in a time crunch, personally only, that I think we should have all the information, not mitigate some and put some in, you know what I'm saying? I don't think it's that big of a deal since it's already been made easy with the template. Add the information. We've come a long way from the data that was presented in September to now. We've seen kids' grades. There are a lot of things. There were reasons why you guys selected maybe, let's say, certain students to receive this. So I'm just saying, why wouldn't we do that? And you said you can do that, but that's my only objection to it.
No, and I think that's a valid point. When they wrote their plans in September, they worked on them over the summer.
Right.
And at that point, we didn't have the grant finalized. We didn't know if the after-school programs were going to be running, so they didn't include them in the original plan. I totally understand what you're saying.
I mean, it'll be a better read. It'll be more accurate.
No, I understand.
I have some input as well. I remember when I first got on the board, there were plans presented that were not unified, and it was clear that, some schools did a more in-depth look at what needed to be done versus others, and it was kind of all over the place. So I'm in support of a template, but at the same time, in support of, again, what's unique to that building and what that building administration and their team feel need to be done. But I'm having an issue with some of these that I don't know if they just, I'll draw your attention to page 375. This last point, number 4, looks like it was information entered. However, there's still template information on the page, which I'm not understanding why that's still there. If this is a working document, there should be nothing that is static information still in the document. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I haven't gotten to 375 yet.
You see number 4 at the bottom? Page 375. So it says who the task is assigned to, but underneath that, it has basically template information.
Right, create an internal professional development calendar. Is that the one?
Basically giving instruction on how to fill out the form, and that information is still there, which I'm not understanding. But
oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying.
If these are working documents, these should be documents that are being reviewed, of course, with the right information. And I see a couple other issues with this one in particular, which I can share with you later. But I share the same concern of, our buildings using the document as it was intended, which I'm sure they are. But if you're going to bring something to the board, it should be in a state of, we are looking at this and we've gone through it and I shouldn't be seeing this particular information.
And I understand what you're saying. my point with this is that they're not using this document for their working document. Their working document is the document that was presented in September. This was the template that was required for the state. And so in order to get those
So if we're
approved,
approving this document is going as is to the state, saying this is what the board has approved.
the state requires us to submit an approval date.
Just
It
the
doesn't
approval
require that the document itself doesn't go. It's just our record.
Okay, but if we approve it as a board, you have a parent that comes in and say, hey, I want to see this document. This is the kind of stuff that shouldn't be on this document.
No, I
It's a
understand.
cleanup issue.
I understand.
And if you're, using it, obviously, the state had it as a requirement for a reason. So.
No, I understand what you're saying. I can see it, I see that record notes there in several places. They just didn't delete. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Secretary, please call the roll.
No?
We didn't do a motion for that one? I thought we did. No, we just started question. Okay, so do we want to approve these? I'm asking the board. You want to bring it back? Okay. So I can have a motion to remove item number 9A1 from the agenda.
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith.
Third.
All those in favor
Moved by-
say aye. Aye. All those opposed say
Aye.
nay. Sorry about all that. Mrs. Galbraith.
Mrs. Galbraith,
And I kind of second
And
and a
Mr.
half.
Brown. Co-sign.
we had a ghost to third it.
Okay, now may I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing employee discipline, pending litigation, and student discipline?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Galbraith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Sanders?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Sanders. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Mr. Toure?
Aye.
Secretary's aye, and Dr. Hall.
Aye. Thank you. We're enclosed and we are estimating to return within 1 hour. Actually, let's say 9:50. Give everybody a chance to use the restroom if they need to.
Did you guys have a finance meeting?
boy.
Can I have a motion to come out of closed session?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo,
Second.
second by Mr. Teray. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Okay, next we have our human resources action items. Number 1, may I have a motion to approve the personnel report? Moved by Mrs. Galbraith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Gasparo.
Now it's like,
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mrs. Galbraith? Aye. Mr. Teray?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Aye.
Secretary's aye. Dr. Hall?
Aye, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the notice of remedy for employee 2016-1A?
Moved.
Who's
Moved
that?
by Mr. Teray, I think.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gasparo. I have a couple of questions regarding this vote. Mr. Cunningham, what are the allegations against employee 2016-1B?
The allegations were physical contact with a student to force behavioral compliance in violation of board policy 5:230.
I'm sorry, I said the wrong employee number. It's 2016-1A, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead, I just need to clarify.
Oh, okay. And
2016 1A, I apologize.
1A, sorry.
the Illinois School Code and specific prohibition against corporal punishment. Also, dishonesty when questioned about the behavior of the incident against Board Policy 5:120.
And my question, next question is, were these allegations found to be true?
Yes.
My next question is in regards to the teacher handbook. Does it outline how to properly follow protocol with disciplining students?
Yes, it does. Board policy clearly outlines protocol for student discipline. We can go through the teacher handbook and basically say what we're expecting, what protocols will be done when teachers are dealing with this type of situation. It's important that we do not use physical force with discipline.
My last question is, has the evidence regarding employee 2016-1A changed in any fashion since being presented to the Board of Education?
No, ma'am, it is not.
Thank you. I would like to publicly make a comment in regards to this vote. I do understand the need to hold staff members accountable for their actions. I am not necessarily in support of a notice of remedy for staff members with these accusations. And I want to go on record that I do not support giving a notice of remedy to staff members who have done such. And I ask that that is duly noted in the minutes. Mrs. Tobin. Last question, actually, Mr. Cunningham, were there any other, actually, why was there not a recommendation for termination for this employee?
The board as a whole does not support a recommendation to terminate. I delivered the information to the teacher that the Human Resources Department was recommending termination for discipline. I'm recommending notice to remedy to ensure that we do document the issue and that the district remediate the action.
Thank you. So for clarity, are you saying please restate that, just so I can be clear.
We do not have votes for termination. And we will document the issue using the notice to remedy to move forward.
You said we do not have votes?
We do not have enough votes. The board as a whole does not vote. Believe that termination is the action necessary.
Okay, thank you. Can I have did we do the motion yet?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Hold on, because the only thing I want to say for sure is that although Dr. Hall states that she does not condone this action, I don't want it to be stated that, and me specifically, I'm going to go on the record as stating, I don't condone the behavior as well. With given the options, as I certainly support disciplinary action as we have disciplinary action for a student with inappropriate behavior. So it is not fair to document my name and align it with acceptance of this behavior from any adult and or staff member. So let that so duly be noted.
And I would like to ensure that we are addressing this type of behavior with any staff member. And we are formally addressing it, and we are ensuring that staff members know proper protocol when handling discipline issues with students.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Toure
No.
and Mrs. Gasparo,
No.
Mrs. Galbraith,
No.
and Mr. Brown.
No.
And the secretary is I, Dr. Hall.
No. May I have a motion to approve the dismissal of non-certified employee 2016-1B?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Galbraith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Gasparo. Secretary, please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mrs. Gasparo.
No.
Okay, and Mr. Toure.
I'm sorry. Is this the student or employee?
Employed.
Employee.
What is this?
I'm going to vote yes.
2016-1B.
All right, I'm sorry. All right, so did I start with anybody yet? I got Galbraith. Okay, and so Mr. Brown. Thought I got him.
You get Mr. Teray.
I have Brown.
You have a yes for Mr. Teray, a yes for Mrs. Galbraith, a no for Mrs. Gasparo.
Oh, no for, okay. All right, so then secretary is no, and Dr. Hall. What is Mr. Brown? I thought he answered,
No, I didn't.
so go ahead.
No.
I have you down for no, I just don't know. You just staring me. Okay, so no for Mr. Brown.
Wait a minute.
Do
we
me a
need
favor.
Clarity on this.
Do me a favor, though. Let's clarify. Yeah, I want to make sure. Okay, so starting again, Mr. Brown,
For the, you understand which one we're doing?
2016 1B.
Approval of dismissal of non-certified employee 2016 1B.
What we're saying.
We already voted, no?
Yeah, but we're going to redo because it's confused, right? Yes. Are we redoing? What are we doing?
But once we vote, we vote.
Okay.
No.
No, I'm good with the way we voted.
Okay, so,
Yes.
and Mrs. Gasparo,
No.
okay, and Mr. Teray,
Yes.
and Mr. Brown.
No. I have to clear my throat.
Is that a real answer? Okay, okay, all right. And secretary is no.
Nope.
And Dr. Hall.
Is yes.
Hang on. Yes
How
is
many
mine.
times we
I
gotta,
got it.
we voted already, guys. Let's move.
You didn't vote until I get a right to make sure my vote is right, Mr. Teray. You can't make it be anything other than what I want it to be. Sanders, yes. Got that? I said it back there, I'm saying it in here.
Oh, my God.
Can I have a motion to approve the recommendation of expulsion of student 2016-2A?
Can we make an objection? Can I make an objection to the last vote?
Sure.
Because how many times are we going to change the vote? You made a vote, and then you come around and you change the vote. I don't think we can do that.
No,
Yes,
it
you
wasn't
can.
official.
And how can you keep, we could change votes all night long. I mean, you make a vote and that's the vote. How does that, make a formal objection somehow? What's the legal procedure to do that? How
Do whatever you need to do.
Yeah,
I don't
Check it
know,
out.
I'm asking.
I'm
She
going to
was
say that
trying
I
to gain
object to
clarity.
not being able to vote correctly in the way
She
that
was
I
trying
choose.
to get clarity on the vote. There was confusion,
So
I guess.
make your objection. I
I'm
object.
making the objection for the record.
Good, make it.
Okay.
And I object to not being able to vote the way I see so fit. So that's the objection.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the recommendation of expulsion of student 2016-2A?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
No.
What'd you say, Terry?
There was some other language that was supposed, is there some other language?
Oh, to be held in abeyance.
Oh,
To be held in abeyance.
To be held in abeyance.
It is 4 o'clock in the morning, okay. So Which ones?
2016 2A, and then it'll be 2B when we say it all the way through. Let's go on to see. On our recommendations, Jamie these.
The first one.
Okay. Time to go home.
Bear with us, please.
You don't need me. The rest is easy.
Where the heck do you think you're going?
I'm going home. Before I tell them what I really think. This is just fucking ridiculous. Can't vote to do that. And the goddamn rules, that's not even
Gotta be
happening.
careful driving home around in Deer's Yachts.
All the way?
Deer's Yachts,
Yeah.
because this is the time they're out moving pretty good and it's cold at this time of the night.
That's right. Okay.
You got everything? Where's your car key?
I will have it all night. Car keys are in my pocket. Okay. Yeah. I know.
Okay. Properly. I have a motion to expel student 2016-2A to be held in abeyance for the allowance, to be held in abeyance until the end of the 2015-16 school year for allowance to attend Monee Education Center. Do we have?
All those other particulars. Okay. Moved by Mrs.
Gasparo.
Yeah, sorry.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galbraith.
Okay.
Secretary, please call the roll.
And Mrs. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Yes.
no. Secretary's aye, yes, and Dr. Hall
No.
Actually call.
Mr. Brown?
and Mr. Brown.
No.
Can you restate the votes, please?
Okay, so yes for Sanders, no for Hall, yes for Gasparo, yes for Galbraith. no for Brown.
Thank you.
You get that, Tier?
No, that's.
No, Hall said, I'm sorry, Sanders said yes. So no Brown, yes Galbraith, yes Gasparo, no Hall, yes Sanders.
May I have a motion to approve the
You
expulsion
get
of
that, Tier?
student 2016-2B for 1 year to be held in abeyance to attend Monee Education Center?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Galbraith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Gasparo. Secretary, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Brown,
No.
Mrs. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mrs. Gasparo,
Yes.
and Secretary's yes, Dr. Hall.
Yes.
Tier? So the only one that was no was Brown. Right.
May I have a motion to approve the transfer of student 2016-2C to the Crete Monee Alternative Program until the end of the 2015-16 school year?
Oh, sorry. Moved. Sorry.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo,
Second.
second by Mrs. Galbraith. Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Yes, okay. Mrs. Galbraith?
Yes.
Mrs. Gasparo?
Yes.
And Secretary's yes, Dr. Hall.
No. May I have a motion to approve the expulsion of student 2016-2D for 1 calendar year to be held in abeyance to allow the attendance to the Monee Education Center?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo.
Second.
Yes, Gasparo.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Galbraith.
Mrs. Galbraith?
Yes.
Ms. Gasparo?
Yes.
And Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Secretary's yes, Dr. Hall.
Yes. All right, any old business?
You said what?
Old business?
We can't think of any. Adjournment?
New business? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Moved by Mrs. Gasparo, second by Mrs. Galbraith. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those
Opposed,
opposed say nay. We're adjourned.